Hello and welcome everybody to a brand new episode of r/MaliciousCompliance. My name is Ryan, the official host here on Reddit Voice, and I look forward to bringing you guys today's top stories. Before I do though, I'd really appreciate it if you could hit that subscribe button, as well as make sure you got notifications turned on, that way you could stay up to date with all the latest and greatest. Just do your job and shut up. No problem. The software company I worked for got acquired. Some people were let go, some people were added, and some teams and functions were restructured. Prior to the acquisition, we had a multiple hats situation where you basically did whatever was in your capacity. Teams played to each other's strengths, and one person would generally take a client from the first demo right through the configuration, implementing, and training phases of the software. Some of us had strengths in technical areas, others had a decade plus in the client subject matter. Clients would give us some feedback or wish lists. We'd talk amongst the team about how the functionality could be added or changed, made a whole functional mock-up, and then bring that into the development team for polish and integration into the production code. It worked wonderfully. We're talking 100% positive feedback and nothing broken when it went to production. We had a good rapport with the dev guys, and some of us were able to write queries or code portions that would save them from having to ask a billion subject matter questions. When we weren't dedicated to a task, we'd handle support calls. Clients would call up, receptionists learned how to pass things based on clients and the nature of the issues, and resolution was typically instantaneous, unless the problem required research. Clients loved that and had the understanding that if we couldn't resolve the problem right away, it was because we needed to look into it. After the acquisition, the parent company reorganized things into a much more rigid, you have one job type of scenario. The trouble was, with the people they let go, I was the singular remaining source of a lot of the capacities we provided. It left me working with sales, product improvement and concept product evangelism, implementation, development, data conversion, and support teams. Initially, I didn't mind. It wasn't any different with my previous role. Things started nicely enough with the company's CEO genuinely asking, "Would you mind helping X team with Y project?" And he'd pick up my travel bar tabs and toss me a day off here and there. It was a fair exchange, and he treated it as though I was doing him a favor. But at some point, all these other departments expected, then demanded my time. Instead of people asking when I could help them on a project, I would just find time blocks added to my schedule for various things. A couple of times I was supposed to be chairing these meetings and having things prepared, but no one ever bothered to tell me. Around the same time, I noticed a lot of recommendations I made when asked for input were being overturned by people in new roles who had no idea what they were talking about. As in, literally had no exposure to the subject matter and had never even seen the software, plus no programming logic or database experience. So my input is demanded but also ignored, and this was causing more demands on my time when things were broken or didn't meet client expectation. Plus, the new dev team I was working with made every excuse not to act unless someone went and confirmed and fetched everything they needed. The external demands on my time had increased, and I had coincidentally hit a few walls with my actual job, in that clients were unresponsive and couldn't get me the data or access I needed to complete tasks. But this didn't stop my boss from demanding documentation and results in documents about the results. There was no such thing as waiting. It's your duty to call and harass the powerless client until whatever third party involved enables whatever we need. I was really unhappy in a job I previously loved. Every day was worse than the last. And then I got my employee review. It was top notch, and yet I got the same cost of living raise as everyone else. It particularly burned my ass that the sales guys were getting a commission on sales that I made, and that I was shafted. At the original company, effort above and beyond was well rewarded. I doubled my starting salary in a few years' time for hard work. Now I was miserable, overdrawn, and got nothing for it. I was having daily arguments with my boss, who was completely indifferent to all of my commitments and refused to understand that I couldn't compel third-party companies to do my timely bidding and get client data or access. Out of nowhere, I get a call from the head of the data conversions department. He says a few of his people have noticed some high-level solutions to dev or data problems in the team chats come out of some random guy from implementations in no time. Then he was talking about a pre-existing client, about converting a set of financial data from a legacy system I had converted some building, code, fire, planning, and police data from, and they asked if they could have me do it specifically because my conversion of their other data was flawless. I granted them some change requests on the way, though, to make their lives easier. Simple changes to record type names for easier identification, clip leading spaces or extra zeros so they could put reports in Excel, stuff like that. He said the client wouldn't stop gushing about me and was floored to hear that I had done the whole thing myself, where his typical team breaks the responsibilities between 5 or more people. He offered me a position on the spot, and I told him I was interested and I'd think about it. He told me I could start doing some part-time stuff with him a few hours a week if I wanted that way. He told me he saw the BS I was dealing with and said he'd get the other departments off my plate. I liked him right away. My current boss then interrupted our call, seeing me talking to that guy on our in-house phone app, and demanded to know what I was wasting my time on. Then she proceeded to berate me about open orders and my lack of documentation about their lack of progress. You got time to BS with him, but you can't call a client. I tried to tell her for the millionth time about all the expectations from the other departments, the obligations they leave behind in their allotted time frames, the inability I have to force other companies to do things for us no matter how many times I tell the client, and she told me, I'm done with your excuses. Just do your job and shut up. I called the conversions head right back and asked how soon I could transfer to his department full time. He said, fucking yesterday, man. This is such good news. I was just talking to the assistant department manager, and he about crapped his pants when I said I think I got you part-time. Take the rest of the day off and have a beer to celebrate. I'll handle the transfer and we'll be seeing you in the morning. And that was that. I did as my new boss commanded and had a beer to celebrate. A wave of relief came to me after months of tension. The following day, I told the vampire departments and my previous boss in no uncertain terms that I was done helping them. It went unacknowledged and they continued adding things to my calendar. So I deleted them, did my job, and shut it up. Things got ugly. I'm not super talented or anything, but I was literally the only person they had for a lot of things. And things went to shit. Most of it requires institutional knowledge I had spent years acquiring, so they couldn't even hire someone to do these things. And rather than come ask me for help, people made demands and attacks. I got flat out belligerent about it. In an email with the CEO CC'd, the support manager asked why I couldn't be bothered to help them anymore. I said for the same reasons you can't be bothered to clean the toilets or recable the building. It's not my job. Previous boss told me to just do my job and shut up. Take it up with her. The sales/evangelist guys tried to go over to my head and asked my new boss if I could do some of their demos. He said, sure, if you come over here and do some of his conversions. Numbers tanked for the departments I was previously involved with. Support in particular. They went from a 2-hour average resolution time to 8 days. Sales for my product line went down from 85% success to less than 25%. CEO reported that sales dropped over 60% from 85%. Don't know the exact. Dev and product went from 100% customer satisfaction to 60%. Implementations has been completely unable to install certain components, which led to at least one contract cancellation and demand for a refund. And in true storybook fashion, my previous boss's boss, the one who gave me my previous employee review and who is a childhood friend of the CEO, told me privately that the CEO noticed all of the departments Unfocus my chi stopped working for suddenly saw their worst numbers in company history. He then asked if anything in particular pushed the other guy over the edge. Previous boss's boss explained that I was pissed about the review and raise and having nothing to do with merit or effort. The demand from the other departments, unrealistic and impossible expectations, and the idiotic requirement for documentation. So this year and going forward, there are 2 criteria for yearly raises: individual output and department output. No raises for people with negative performance numbers. Upon that announcement, some department heads up and quit, and others changed positions internally. Meanwhile, I've written a few utilities for my team that should have saved thousands of hours of manual work. Our numbers are soaring where they were previously up and down, and my new boss is driving the whole bus full of our laughing asses all the way to the bank. Want me to ignore your bug because you're slightly senior than me? All right, bud. I work as a developer in a company that creates very fast automated systems for moving around money electronically. So obviously, we have very strict testing and error checking for any code that goes into a production system. And I'm one of the guys who does this verification. So 3 months ago, I found a little bug in a patch that was written by some other guy who'd been working at the company for only 1 year longer than me. He has the title of Senior Developer, while I'm just a developer. It didn't really make any difference, though. That was just something you get with a small pay raise once you do 3 years at the company as a developer. Anyway, I noticed this bug, email him and tell him about it so he can fix it and resubmit the patch. But he turns the responsibility on me, tells me his code is correct and that I'm just testing it incorrectly. I try to explain it to him, but he doesn't budge. Tired of the pointless arguing, I suggest that we should clear it with our project manager. At this point, he pulls the seniority card and says I should just do as he says because I'm his junior. Now that just pissed me off. This guy has no authority over me. Who does he think he is? Cue malicious compliance. I knew the bug would not manifest itself immediately. There were certain conditions that had to be met for it to show itself in a production environment. And it didn't do anything wrong. It would just crash the system unexpectedly. I ask him one final time in the email thread whether he's sure he wants me to go ahead with the patch. He says yes. Alrighty, yay! Now we have buggy code running on a production machine which moves $1 million every minute. Nothing happened for 3 months. Life was as usual. Then last week, it finally happened. Our system crashed. Well, we have protections set up for such failures that roll back on binaries automatically. However, the crash still cost the company a few hours of downtime, which means potentially hundreds of thousands of dollars lost. The crash was traced back to the patch that Mr. Senior Developer had written. I had the email trail to absolve myself of fault. The resolution was quick, and needless to say, Mr. Senior Developer no longer works with us now. Trying to pay with fake cash and then tell me to do my job? You got it. On mobile, sorry for the format. This happened about 7 years ago. I, Mal29, used to work in a store whose name sounds a lot like cops that ride in planes. This particular day, I was in the register when a well-dressed guy and 3 women walk in. Each takes a cart and starts walking around and picking things out. I was known for my no BS attitude on the register. You throw money at me, give me attitude, well, I'll do it right back to you. So when a coordinator comes to me 30 minutes later and asks me to take the dude and his girls on my register, I already know we're in for a fun time. They rolled up with 3 carts full of clothes, and not just any stuff. We're talking shoes and boots that cost $300 to $800, expensive handbags, coats, and more. I'm just there thinking, shit. So they walk up, I start scanning, all the while the ladies are being unpleasant. Finally, I get through it all, and the total comes out to about $3K. Dude reaches into his fly-ass coat and pulls out a wad of cash. All crisp $100 bills. Immediately, I knew something was off. So I take the money and go to the machine to check it first. First bill doesn't pass. Neither does the second. So I turn back around and tell the dude I can't take the money. Before I even get a chance to fully explain, one of the chicks cuts me off and tells me to take the fucking money and do my damn job. Cue malicious compliance. I say, you know what? You got it. Let me get the manager so he can help. See, at our discretion, we can decline a form of payment. Say if 2 of your cards get declined, gotta use cash. If your cash doesn't pass, gotta use a card or we can tell you to F off. But if we suspect you're using fake money, we gotta try and keep you there while we get the cops. So I go to my manager, cash in hand, and tell him what's up. He goes to the office and checks the money. Now the dude's nervous, but just imagine his pants when 2 cops walk in and head straight for us. His horrified face made my day. Cops take my statement, and next thing you know, all 4 of them are getting arrested. I'll while one of the ladies is screaming and cursing at me while I tell her in the most innocent voice I can pull off, "You told me to do my job." And with that, my friends, we've reached the end of today's video. If you liked it, be sure to leave a like as well as subscribe. That way you can stay up to date with all that we have to offer here on the channel. As always, my name is Ryan, the official host here on Reddit.